Do you know what the hardest part of the Grounded Reason podcast is?
What?
Trying to figure out what to do for the cold open.
Cold open.
And welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast, where Joel and I talk about cord cutting, internet, bitch about the FCC, like you do.
Yeah, these days at least.
Today we're going to be talking about a few things. First, before we get into that, I wanted to say I don't know what's going on, but last week we talked about Ajit Pai and Sinclair. Broadcast. Check it out if you haven't listened to it. I
thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, and you learn a little bit about what's going on, and it's really freaking scary. But the day after we released, Pai wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, basically defending the position. What, do you think he was listening?
Pai, are you there, Pai? Are you following us, Pai?
No, because I read it and it basically kind of like said everything. It was like kind of like his counterpoint.
Yeah, it was
to like all the stuff we were saying.
Oh man, that would be great. I mean, like that would inflate my ego so much, and like absolutely, there's no way in hell he's paying any attention.
No, but I just thought it was funny.
But
it's like,
boy, wouldn't that be fun?
It was like we recorded. It was like a day or two later. I saw this big op-ed about it. I was like, "Holy crap!" You know, this is exactly what we're talking about.
He does that every now and again. He pops up with like an op-ed,
and then the other thing that happened, because that episode we also made fun of Seb Gorka.
Yeah,
and now he's working for Fox News. Like 2 days later, Fox News hired.
I did not hear that.
They hired Seb Gorka. So now that Seb Gorka is, we need to make some lemonade out of this. James Adomian, the comedian,
he does an amazing impersonation.
Amazing Seb Gorka. He needs to get a TV job now. Like SNL needs to call him or something so you can have like a Seb Gorka. Like in the wings.
We saw him live at LA Podcast doing that.
Podfest, yeah.
Or Podfest, yeah, sorry. And he was just great.
Yeah, so I want to just get those out of the way because I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Two kind of, because we basically saying about how Gorka should not be on television.
Right.
And then next day, Fox News is like, we're hiring Seb Gorka to be on national television.
Fox News. Fox News, are you out there? Are you listening?
And then pirates the op-ed. So I just thought it was,
Yeah, that's weird.
It's a coincidence, I'm sure, but a piece of me hopes they're listening.
It wasn't. Rupert, are you listening?
So, but today we're going to be getting into some heavy subscriber losses in the pay TV industry. We're also going to talk about why a move by everyone's favorite FCC chairman is probably going to make everyone's cable TV bills, if they still have cable, go up next year.
This guy.
I know. And then we're finally going to, like the last thing we're going to do is get to a new streaming service that just came out that is catered towards people who don't want anything to do with sports.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, which is a good thing because that's what we've been saying for a while. That's really the piece of the sports packages are what makes everyone's cable bill so expensive in the first place.
Yeah,
so,
it's at least a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Like all of us, like we've talked about it a lot, that all of us that don't watch a ton of sports are subsidizing all of
everybody else. It's crazy. So, that's what's on the plate for today. So let's get into, the numbers I'm going to get into it's not my favorite numbers. It's not the Nielsen numbers that I'm always so happy about. These are the industry numbers.
Seriously, people, you cannot imagine the sheer joy that Dennis feels when it comes through his texts. When he's the Nielsen numbers.
Well, because it's
Joel, they're here.
Because the reason why I know the Nielsen data is survey data, but I'm more interested in kind of like the trend over time. But what's cool about the Nielsen numbers that you're really not getting from the industry numbers is that the Nielsen numbers take new households into account.
Yeah.
Where the industry numbers just take losses into account.
Yep.
So you're not really getting a picture of how bad it is just by looking at the subscriber losses, because you're missing the whole piece of the puzzle of all of the new households that have come up in the past year that just didn't get cable.
Well, a lot of people discount survey data in general, and I think that's unfair. Like survey data,
It's bad.
like, first of all,
It's bad for discrete moments.
yeah, but that's exactly my point.
Right.
It's like, one, Nielsen's been doing this for a long time,
Right.
so they have a huge volume of like time series data,
Right.
and then two, they know how to break out a survey to make it fairly represented.
It is, and if they do it, their methodologies are very consistent to the
Yeah.
point where if they even change it ever so slightly, they'll usually rename the series.
Yeah.
Like they'll change the name of the report.
Which is honestly what you should do.
Right. But
It's a whole firm of statisticians,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and that's really what I'm interested in, is the not necessarily the discrete data in that moment, but comparing it to the last Nielsen survey and the one before that, and that's really where you start to see what's happening when you see look at the trend. But this data is the industry numbers that they report within the cable TV industry. Now, it's okay. This is for Q3 of this year, and I'm not okay. Dish Network lost in one quarter 223,000 satellite subscribers. Now they actually had a gain
Yeah.
because they added 239,000
So a
Sling
net
TV.
gain.
Net gain. But like they lost in like traditional television, they lost, almost 250,000.
So a division within Dish is really pissed.
Well, yeah. Well, I think they're kind of like,
They know.
Yeah.
They know what's up.
that's why I think they went so heavy into Sling is they're just, I mean, it's easier for somebody who their Dish service. I think they're probably pushing it to areas with poor internet connection is really kind of what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I can tell you right now.
I haven't seen a Dish commercial in our area in years.
But
Sling TV's
like
on all the time.
you go into Appalachia, right? Like I go visit my family in West Virginia. Like they've had satellites, like legit satellite television since the mid 80s.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
I remember.
Because you
Like,
just can't run cable out there.
well, and it used to be, I don't know, like this is going way back, but you used to actually, you could pick up satellite feeds when you had the satellite. And what I mean by that is like when someone's doing like a news segment, the camera is on like the whole time before like the segment even starts. You could see that. Like you could see someone sitting in a chair, like just waiting to do it was ridiculous.
You're
But,
like,
yeah, because you could pick up
they're
like the,
just in their boxers.
yeah, you could pick up the
Yeah.
actual network feeds on those old satellites.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so getting back, so Dish lost almost 250,000. AT&T lost between their Uverse product and their DirecTV Now satellite service. They lost 385,000 subscribers.
And to be clear, when you're talking about these losses, you're talking about from their traditional
TV.
services.
They didn't. They had a net loss, and I can't remember the exact number, but like I think DirecTV Now was somewhere in the 200,000 range.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't enough to offset those losses.
Right.
Comcast lost 125,000. Charter lost 104,000. Verizon lost 18,000. And there's also like Altice, which owns like four other like I mean Cablevision, I think is one they own. And there's like some other. There's like four companies.
Is Cablevision the one that's up in like New Jersey?
Yeah, Optimum. Is their like high speed brand or one of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, but if you took the whole, if you took all the top 10 platforms, not companies, because I really think there are only 6 companies that own the top 10 platforms for TV. 835,000 on the quarter.
Wow.
Is what they lost. Now, that if you take that into consideration, in the second quarter of this year, they lost 941,000.
Yeah.
And in the first quarter, they lost 762,000. So you're talking about, what's that, 15? Right there is almost 2.5. Is that right? 2.5 million?
That sounds right. Repeat the numbers again.
Yeah, that's about right. It's a rough 8.
So is it 8 8, 7, and 6.
It's 835, 762, so that's 16, and then you throw another 9. You throw another 950 into that.
So it was 9, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, sure, over 2.5 million.
And
we're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
We have another quarter to go.
What I was thinking is is the second derivative, swinging up? And it sounds like no, it's bouncing around.
It is. It's they went and also
it's not an accelerating trend.
It's quarter dependent
but
too,
it's pretty
because
steady.
you're going to get more there's more people who subscribe for television in the fall season.
Yeah,
because
sure.
TV's starting back up.
Well,
so and they drop in the second quarter when summertime's coming. So
and the holiday season's weird because you get a lot of special offers.
That's true.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers come in, probably still bad, but not as bad.
Yeah, but we're 3 quarters into 2017, and they've already shed 2.5 million subs.
Wow.
Now let's compare that to last year in 2016. The whole year, 937,000.
And again, those are households, not individuals.
Yeah, households. So that was last year, and in the year before that, it was 684,000. So
what is the industry down to? Like 95 million now?
It's
gotta be.
No, it's actually like 80.
Holy
something.
crap!
Yeah, I think it's like somewhere in there.
What was it like? Last year was the first time they dipped below.
Oh no! They dipped. I think they dipped below. I think 2013 is when they fell below the 100,000 mark.
100 million.
Oh, that's what I meant. 100 million. Excuse me.
Yeah. Was it 2013? It was.
See, I'm confusing it. I have to go look because the Nielsen data is in my head right now too.
Yeah.
So and those are different sets of numbers.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I'd have to.
I think I might be mixing them up as well.
So, but I mean, just that usually. It's crazy that they're already at 2.5 million losses on the year when they they didn't even crack 1 million losses all of last year, and there's another quarter to go yet. They're probably going to hit over 3 million losses.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing is that we talked about this with AT&T, right? That of the big boys, right? The one that is most likely to come out of the wreckage, fairly strong is them for a variety of reasons, right? We've talked about it in other episodes. But just to reiterate, at least my feelings on that, they seem to be adjusting to this trend faster than the other groups. Although didn't Verizon just come out with like another internet only offering?
Yeah, actually, they just doubled the speed. So I just put an article out.
You tweeted it too.
Yeah. They basically now they're doing. If you're for new customers, it's 100 MIPS for $40. Now that's there's some taxes and fees on top of that. Like you have to rent a modem for like $10 a month. So it'll come in over a little over 50. So for somewhere between $50 and $60, you get 100 MIPS, which is that's not too bad. That's a really good price, really.
Yeah.
And it's a year, and you're not tied into an annual. So
yeah, and this is what's so great about like, God, I'm throwing my capitalist hat on here, but I can't help it. This is what's so great about price competition, right? Like the decoupling of content and service provider, right? Like even without a lot of competition in the service provider portion of the market, it is forcing price competition, or the all of the competition that's going on the content side is forcing at least some competition over into the provider side.
Well, yeah. Well, they have to. I mean, they're gonna I think telecom's getting it there. I think AT&T and Verizon are understanding.
They're picking it up.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Verizon's trying really hard to get like a streaming service out there.
Yeah.
It got delayed. I think they're having some issues from what I heard, and this is just kind of like rumor.
Yeah, rumor mill, right?
They're having some issues getting the network, like the networks on board.
What's the advantage to them setting up their? I mean, other than they capture more of the pricing, right? Like, but Why set up their own streaming service rather than partner?
I don't get that either, because like that's what Sprint is doing. Sprint actually, I think, cut a deal with Hulu, and right now I think they they just announced this today, that they're going to include Hulu with Sprint's unlimited service. So basically, it's kind of just, you get their limited commercial plan for all Sprint unlimited customers.
Yeah.
So
CV.
So you can stream, Hulu. You get it with your Sprint package now.
That seems like a reasonable coupling. Those two,
Right? And I mean, I feel Sprint is kind of like no one even, I don't even hear the word Sprint anymore.
No. And we are deep in Verizon country over here on the East Coast.
I know it's kind of like the forgotten service these days. It seems.
But I mean, like, I think it's the Midwest.
Oh, they're the
big deal.
Still big out there. Yeah. On the East Coast, I don't know anyone who has Sprint.
No.
Yeah, and I think really that's kind of what needs to happen to like some of these players that are having issues. Is like just because that's what like T-Mobile did with Sling TV. T-Mobile basically said we'll essentially zero rate Sling TV over our service, so you could like just stream that for free. So there's a way for these, and that's the way. Like,
absolutely,
I'm not a big fan of zero rating at all. But if we're gonna have it, I'd much rather have it two separate companies doing it as a partnership as opposed to like one huge conglomerate that owns like all the verticals and just kind of, because at that point you're kind of creating another Amazon, really.
Well, in
that's just going to own that space.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, where it's like what really needs to happen with the ISPs is they need to become utilities.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, well,
and once they become utilities, if they want to give preferential treatment to like certain content providers, like fine, then we start getting into regulatory territory.
Right.
And like that can be worked out in the courts or by the regulators.
See, I'm a big fan of local loop unbundling, where the entire backbone infrastructure is public utility, and then your ISPs innovate off of that. Like you can.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You
ideally, that's what we would be doing.
That's I think the best scenario, because that is where all the cost is. So if you have one huge shared like network, and then your ISPs can sit there and then anyone can jump in and innovate off of that. You'll have mad competition. You'll have all these, because there's not this huge upfront cost to join in anymore, because it's just, this public infrastructure that could be used.
What you would have is a whole run on ISP startups.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Right.
But
because that's how the internet started too. Because if you remember, that's like what it was. But back then, we were innovating off the phone line, which had a hard cap at 56K due to the nature of the technology itself.
What you're arguing for is basically treating the internet backbone as public utility.
Yeah,
which I'm all for.
Right.
So all I'm doing is arguing from where we are rather than where I would prefer to be.
Right.
Right. And where we are is like, let's call it what it is. The industry has captured Congress. So because of that, like,
and the regulatory body, the FCC
exactly,
is completely captured right now.
So the telecoms and the cable companies have argued the point that they own the infrastructure, right? And so they've won that argument, at least for now, with the regulatory bodies and Congress.
And I'm not saying take it. Compensate them. Compensate them. And first off,
they were given it.
Yeah, you the taxpayer. I would say all of it, but
no, but they were given a lot.
Yeah, all you taxpayers out there fronted a lot of the bill for a lot of this infrastructure.
And it wasn't done in one solid chunk.
No, it was over time.
It was exactly. It was very incremental. Like there was the initial like infrastructure and the investment into creating the infrastructure. like developing what the internet was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a lot of money.
Yes.
And that was effectively given to the ISPs as like you were given a entitlement. Yeah, how's that beer?
That was a good crack.
Yeah, it's not bad. But you're given as the ISP an entitlement from the government to have a, portion of the oligopoly, right? And so with that, what happened was, okay, the ISPs would invest on their own to build out the infrastructure.
Right.
And then periodically the government would come along and say, hey, we got all this copper laying around.
Right.
You want this?
Yeah, or there was
we got all this fiber laying around. You want this?
And how many local sweetheart deals were there where
Tons.
they're basically, they put together a failed municipal project, or like, or they had some corporation that put in some kind of like local like copper loop or something.
Yeah.
And the company went under and there's just this copper sitting there, or maybe the government did it. Maybe the government put together the money to put some copper down.
And guarantee if we were to shift the internet, like the backbone, to public utility, the compensation that would be given to the ISPs would be far greater than what they actually ever put in, right? Because they would be much more equipped to argue the points than the federal government would be, right? Like the federal government would fall down on the job. I'm just guessing here, or I mean, not even guessing. It's just happened historically. They would fall down on the job on being able to call out all of the times and deduct from the payment all of the times that they have been given either tax breaks or direct investment on what their investment has been in the internet infrastructure.
Right. And like, there's also, because I'm a capitalist, but this isn't capitalism.
No.
You got like, I mean, would you watch the NHL if there were like 3 teams in the whole entire league? No, because that's
get pretty boring.
And that's kind of where we are right now. It's like we're in like the death throes of capitalism, where when it comes to this sector,
yeah,
I mean, where it's really just like a few
going to convert, and that's what
companies that actually compete with one another, and that's what we're saying. Something needs to happen to like bring competition back to the market, and one way to do that is to just unbundle that infrastructure and just say, okay, ISPs, everyone has it now, innovate.
And I guess what I am surprised by, like, is what you're talking about with
local loop unbundling.
Is it unbundling or
that's what they call it? That's like the industry term for it.
Unbundling.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was D or un, but so that type of unbundling, absolutely agree. That would be best case scenario. But even the unbundling of like content from provider.
Oh, well, yeah, that's another can.
I am surprised at how much that has moved the needle on pricing.
Yeah.
Like I just personally, I mean, I didn't do the math, but I just didn't think it was going to shift things as much as it has. Because if you look, you know this a lot better than I do, but if you look back like 2 years ago, the idea of getting for 50, 60 bucks, 100 MIPS was ludicrous.
Right.
Right. And now all of a sudden, that's not the norm.
Well, it's not,
but it's not hard to find.
We're lucky enough to have 2 broadband providers.
Right.
And I think that's why it happens. And honestly, Verizon, where they are, I mean, I'm sure there's places out there where they're the only game in town, but they're few and far between. Right. It's not like there's wide swaths of the country where
brutal.
All you have is Comcast or all you have is AT&T. There aren't many places where Verizon's usually in a place where there is
Charter really bad in like Texas.
Yeah, I think so. But Verizon usually is competing with someone. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like why
that makes sense.
You'll see these blanket deals. I know a lot of companies, like, I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but Comcast used to, it was your deals were specific to the location you were in and how many providers were in that area. And I know AT&T was doing that for a while too with the gigabit offerings that they had out. Like if you were in an area with a gigabit competitor, you could get a much better deal than if you were not.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of having like the completely like terrestrial like cable companies and then the telecoms and then the satellite companies. Right, is that with the three of those, and this is probably what's hard for DOJ and the FTC to determine when they start talking about like monopoly power.
Yeah, because they have to establish the market.
Because you're like, oh my God, what's the market, right? Like, because theoretically, any of those can provide competition against each other.
Right. And that's usually the game. It depends. It's honestly up to how like conservative and I mean conservative in the business sense. Like how conservative is not the right word. How corporate, how close you are to corporations or how close you are to public interest is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is where those markets get drawn. So it's really almost up to the discretion of the person who's regulating it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And like, so I do find it really interesting to watch happen. And like the numbers that you're talking about with these industry numbers, I'm curious to see, this is not something, I won't bore people with this once I do the research, but I am curious to see what this does to earnings, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily like as long as they're
their broadband business. That's the funny thing is their broadband business with all these companies is going gangbusters right now.
And that's what I would think, right? Like because like people, it's not like the internet's going out of style.
They're making it up,
right?
Well, at least the big guys like the AT&Ts, the Verizons, and the Comcasts, they're making up. They're actually profitable because of the internet. Their broadband business.
Sure,
right,
they're shifting.
But no one's making money at Jeet Pie because of Title II, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, like, you listen to the earning calls, and they're talking about paying a 4% dividend, and, like, you know, everything's great. We're going to invest a couple $100 million in infrastructure. But clearly everyone's bankrupt.
Yeah. I mean, these companies are hurting.
Kidding.
The world's smallest fucking violin.
Yeah.
Playing right now just for Comcast.
What was I saying last week? Fuck that guy. That's what I was saying.
Actually, that's a good segue because we were
fuck that guy is a good segue
because Ajit is the next story.
That's our segment's name. Fuck that guy.
So, I mean, Ajit's doing something, and this is kind of interesting because it kind of flips the story usually because I'm used to Ajit being kind of in the pockets of the ISPs.
Sure.
But what he is pushing, and I've mentioned this on the ATSC is the new 3.0 is the new over the air TV standard.
Yep.
And it's kind of it's an IP based technology that's going to deliver your over the air television.
Yeah, which is really slick, and I don't quite understand it, but it's cool from what I've read.
Yeah, it's a completely new standard. They'll be able to deliver 4K TV over the air.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But what's interesting is you're going to need a completely new tuner to take advantage of it. So do you remember when they switched from analog to digital?
Yeah.
And everyone either had to get a converter box or a new television?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same situation here. You're going to need to get a new, because you're going to need a new converter box or a new tuner to be able to use the new standard. Now, the Ajit is all gung ho on getting this out.
Sure.
And a lot of people, like, I'm a fan of this technology.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a bad idea.
But when it comes to like, there's certain places where public interest is really important. Like when it comes to, and the FCC's job is to look out for that.
Yeah.
And regardless of what Ajit Pai thinks, his job is not to make sure companies can innovate.
No.
The FCC's job is not to make sure the company's bottom lines are doing well.
No, it's stated in their charter. It's to watch out for the public interest.
Right, but he seems to think that his job is to like stimulate the economy of these companies.
Sure.
And
I'm shaking my head.
when we did the analog to digital switchover, a bunch of things, like first off, they put a bunch of money aside for people to basically you could get reimbursed for a digital converter box.
Yeah.
Since the government was changing, like mandating that the change take place.
Makes sense.
They put together, a fund to compensate the public for having to switch out their TV. And it's like a converter box is like $30-$40, but they compensate you for it.
Right.
They did a limited rollout in North Carolina with high definition just to make sure everything went well. And it was a multi-year thing. Ajit's looking at just throwing it out there, and
that's more than a little scary.
It is, and he wants to do it to where they're going to be running the current signal alongside the new standard. So, like, a network will have to push both. Like, okay, they have the option of pushing both. They have to push one. They have to push 1.0. They can push 3. But if they do, they have the option of selling them both together to the cable companies or to the pay TV companies, the distributors,
right?
Which is going to jack your prices up because the networks are going to be able to double charge them for both signals.
Yeah, it's just like if you're using right now a cable company or a pay TV company, and you have like your non-HD and your HD channels, right? They get to charge you for the fact that you have 2 channels there as opposed to just one.
Right. And that's really what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, this is common, like, you'll see the cable company or actually the network will do this where they'll badmouth the distributor of the cable. They're like, well, you're going to lose, CBS because, X cable company doesn't want to pay us what we want.
Right.
That's because those fees are fairly high.
Sure.
I mean, ESPN's probably the worst. I think it's $9.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I remembered.
It's like between $7 and $9.
Yeah.
But those broadcast fees are kind of expensive. Like, because I think like a Comedy Central is like 15 cents.
Yeah. But I think
per subscriber to pay, like, for the network to carry it. But like a like your network TVs are like in the dollar range. They're a couple bucks. So that right there is going to eat into everyone's cable bill.
Absolutely.
Because right now, like, a lot of companies or a lot of like ISPs, not ISPs, but a lot of like TV providers are separating out the broadcast fee now to where they're showing you how much you're going to be paying. You'll see it in the line item. That'll double essentially with this. And they avoided this last time because the government said they did a nationwide switchover where they said, all right, now we're just turning on digital. And at that point, it was just the government kind of footed the bill for the public on that, which makes sense because it's a public it's a public space.
Right.
It's we're already paying our taxes to the federal government.
Right.
All they're doing is using their tax money to do something that is a public good.
Yeah.
But Ajit is not. I think he's looking at like a 1-year period just to like kind of like just toss this out there, and just like have at it, companies. And guess who the major corporation is that's asking for this?
Verizon?
Oh, well, no, because Verizon is actually all the TV providers are kind of on. They're not. They're
they're
gonna have to.
I know exactly who it is. Sinclair.
It is Sinclair. It is Sinclair.
Oh,
from last week's episode.
Those guys. That's like my catchphrase. Fuck those guys.
So I don't know. I mean, Ajit did work. He used to work for Verizon. He's like, I guess it's like.
Well, that's why I guessed Verizon.
I did too.
I mean, it's just my knee jerk. If you say, "Hey, who's got their hand in Ajit's pocket?" I think Verizon.
Yeah, exactly. But after like last week's episode, and then what's going on now, I think Sinclair's been pretty buddy with Ajit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean they are moneyed up, man.
oh yeah. Well, they are going to kind of like own our
Own-
local airwaves
yeah.
soon. So
So if you're gonna make a deal with anyone about local airwaves, Sinclair seems like a pretty smart.
maybe
person.
Ajit senses this whole cord cutting thing, and he's like, I got to get in the. I got to go over to the
Yeah.
network side here if I want to make my cash when I'm
Is
done
he,
my FCC commission
is
term.
he-
Allegedly.
Is he like, yeah? Is he angling for a board seat?
I don't know. It's this guy.
I
Oh man.
fuck this guy.
Yeah. I mean, he is like top cop for protecting us when it comes
Yeah,
to
That's his job.
corporations
That's what
taking over
really-
public airwaves.
That's what really frustrates me is we as a citizenry have given the executive branch the authority to like steward the airwaves, etc.
right.
In our best interest.
Well, that's
And-
the thing people forget is like since the 80s, we've looked at like the government as adversarial to the people, where this country was built on
Yeah,
we the people.
we the people.
The government is us. I mean,
Right.
and we're voting
It's
the
delegated authority from
us. The theory, I mean, and I know it hasn't been working swimmingly, but the theory is that we pick the best of us to go and, run the shit for us right now.
So I will differ for just a moment. We pick some of us. I would say the best.
Well, I mean,
I
the
would say
idea-
some of us.
The idea was that we weren't necessarily smart enough to run it ourselves, but we were smart enough to know who was smart.
Right.
And we were supposed to send them up to make sure everything runs okay
That pretty much worked
for a while.
until people started saying, I want a politician who I want to sit down and
have a beer with. Yeah, that's when stuff got
Where I
kind
said,
of
no,
wonky.
no. I want someone who's infinite. Like, I have beers with Dennis all the time.
Neither of us should
right?
be running shit.
No, I barely can run my household, right? Like, don't put me in charge of shit, all right? Like, so what irritates me with all of this is that he is our representative,
Right.
right? And despite what Citizens United's, and that decision says, I do not take the corporations of our country that happen to be incorporated in our country to be equivalent to the citizenry
No.
of our country, right? Like, so our vested interest should, in his mind, as a public servant, outweigh the interest of companies, but it does not,
Right.
because he's a corporate shill.
Yes. And I have nothing else to say because you pretty much said it perfectly.
Did I put too fine a point on that?
No, I mean, that's exactly right. What you said, I mean, that's it. So, yep. So he's not only is he going to put policy in place to where your local news is going to be just like Fox News and MSNBC. He's going to kind of jack up your cable bill next year because the network's going to be able to double charge for their content.
So just to clarify that, tiny bit, you're all, myself included, going to pay more for less,
Mhm.
thanks to Mr. Ajit Pai. Thank you, sir.
All right, so some good news.
Please, because I'm desperate for it.
Philo TV.
Oh yeah, this is neat.
It's a new streaming service. They've actually and this is their service is really working well. I've talked to a few people who are using it right now, and they're loving the quality of the streaming. I'm gonna set it up this weekend and probably take a look at it, and then I'll have an article on it. But they're offering a slew of paid TV channels for $16 a month.
Yeah.
And for $16 a month, you get A&E, AMC, BBC America, BET, CMT, Comedy Central, Discovery, HGTV, DIY, Lifetime, MTV, Nick, OWN, Travel Channel, History Channel, TV Land, VH1, Viceland, it's a slew of channels.
And that's about everything I can think of.
Right. I mean, you're missing any sports channel,
Sure.
any Fox owned channel,
Okay.
because Fox has gotten weird. Fox is I don't know why they're doing this, but they're nervous about all the cord cutting, so they just started yanking all their content off streaming services.
But isn't Disney working a thing with them?
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, there you go.
So that solves my problem there.
If they're in
'cause,
talks to buy 21st Century Fox. I don't know how that's going to roll out.
Oh, come on, Disney.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I never thought I would be rooting for the consolidation of capital, but here we go.
I'm curious to see what Fox News will look like when Disney owns them.
I'm assuming it'll just spin off. I straight up do not think they will consolidate that portion. Right? But I really have no idea. It's just a guess.
I don't know. I mean I would.
Yeah,
I want to see what that looks like.
I would love it. I would love to see what that looks like.
Hi, kids. It's your state-owned television news network.
Hot dog, hot diggity dog. It's Seb Gorka.
And now, a word from Seb Gorka.
Jesus Christ. I mean, technically, he's not a Nazi. He's what, a Hungarian affiliate to Nazis?
It's the Order of Vitesse.
Yeah. So
it's like a Nazi. It was dubbed a Nazi group.
Yeah,
the Seb Gorka.
Yeah,
and he wears a pin, the Order of Vitesse pin.
He's really happy about his close affiliation with Nazis.
Yes,
but not being a Nazi.
So back to Philo TV.
Nazi transition.
Right. Those channels, and it's also, so that's $16 for a slew. I mean, it's the exact number is, I think, 36. No, 35. Sorry, I was off by one. So the $16 a month for those 35, and then $4 add-on you can pick up BET Her, Cooking Channel, Destination America, Logo, MTV Live, and Nicktoons, and a few others.
Nice.
So, I mean, this service, they started doing college campuses like 3 years ago, where it was like a college streaming service where you could get this, and they're so they know what they're doing. It's not a new service; they've been doing it for like almost 3 years now. I think the founder is one of the owner, like he's from Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So he knows his way around technology.
Serious tech fella,
right? They're looking at really just catering to people who have no interest in sports, and that's a big chunk of people out there. It's a big chunk of cord cutters.
And what's you correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, let's say me, I go this angle, right? I pick up a service like that. I still can pick up a lot of local sports with an antenna.
Oh yeah, totally. You can like a lot of your NFL stuff. And
I mean, not everything, but
I mean, for someone because I mean that was us for a while when I cut the cord, because I'm gonna use a VPN to watch baseball and hockey.
Right.
NFL is gonna get I'm gonna get that on an antenna.
Yep.
And I really don't understand. I know a lot of people out there watch ESPN.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's not my thing.
I don't get it, because like I can't sit down and watch ESPN unless a game's on. I don't care. I don't care about their punditry shows.
Yeah, like my thing is I don't want to watch dudes talk about sports.
Right. That's just not me.
I either want to watch a sport or not watch.
Yeah, and for me to watch like a highlight show, I got to be really there has to be like nothing going on. Like, and that's rare these days, to where like I have nothing to do.
I had 48 children at home, as we've talked about. I don't have enough time to sit down and watch highlights.
Right. So, I mean, I don't really need a lot of those sports channels that you're going to get on a basic cable thing. I mean, if I want
This actually seems tailor-made for me.
right, it's much more affordable. If you're a baseball fan, it's much more affordable to go just get MLB TV
Sure.
for a season than to carry a cable network the entire time.
Pick up that. See what you think of it for a year.
Right. Or not even
And
year.
then-
You only need it for
yeah,
what, 6 months, 7 months out of the season?
Yeah, and you drop it.
Right. And so that's what I do. So this was really, I wish this came out when I cut the cord. This is like tailor made for me. I mean,
You can still take advantage of.
well, I mean, now I'm kind of like, I'm going to, but I mean,
Well, you also take
now
advantage
it's like
of
my,
all of them.
right. It's like my job to like keep a tab on all of these things. So, so I mean, like when I first, before I started writing about it, I wish this was out to where
Right,
like I could have, like, cause $16. I mean,
It's
just,
not
you could
bad
save
at
some
all.
serious,
Yeah.
what's the word?
Scratch.
Simoleons?
Simoleons. No.
Smackaroos?
Smackaroos.
I don't know.
Clams. You see? Meh.
So, and so some of the features here, they you get for the 16, and this is what all included with the $16. You get unlimited 30-day DVR, so you can record a show. You can record as many shows as you want, but 30 days after the time you recorded, it disappears.
Okay. Let me ask this. Can I get this through my Roku? Can I get an app?
Here's the thing. Yeah, it's available. At launch, it's going to be available on the Roku, iOS, Android, and via Chrome. So you can like cast it from your phone. So that's Chromecast and
I'm old. I don't use Chromecast.
yeah, but like a lot of Android devices
I
have
know.
something called Chromecast built in to where you don't need a Chromecast. So like if you had like a
That's for young people. I don't know.
well, okay. So so you have that. I have heard though that the menu interface on the Roku is really clunky.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
So
a drag. But UIs get worked out over time.
right, and I'll try it out and see how it goes this weekend. I hear there's a few workarounds though. If you get online and kind of like pick the channels you like, it shows up easier in the interface.
Okay.
But I'll have to experiment with that myself. But the fact that you're getting like a DVR and all these
No, it's
channels,
not bad at all.
and I think there's actually like a little bit of on demand too. So like a show I think sits in on demand for like 3 days before it disappears if you don't have it like marked to record.
Right. Yeah.
So you still have like a little bit of leeway there.
So it's like it has a set DVR for everything for a couple of days is basically what it ends up being.
yeah, and I mean,
Right.
I have talked to some college kids who use this stuff in the past, and they love it. Like, so it's
What's dirt cheap?
Right.
That's the big deal, right?
yeah, and you can watch it on your phone, and you can you can watch it anywhere. It's not like you need it. You don't have to be in your room or your.
I'm shaking my head again. That's not a thing for me.
You're an old man.
I am. I'm old as shit.
That's what the kids are doing these days, man. They just
Yeah.
they watch
the
the TV
kids.
everywhere.
I got kids. I'm not a kid, right? Like
Work.
Yeah.
You just sit there and watch television.
I would totally do that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so they're offering a 1 week trial to free trial, try it out, see what you like,
Yeah.
see if it'll work for you. And I'm gonna give it a whirl this weekend, and maybe probably have an article. Actually, I might go home right now and check it out after we're done.
There you go.
Tomorrow,
We're
maybe
getting
there'll
outta
be
here.
an article on Grounded Reason tomorrow.
We're gonna punch out a little early.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are gonna punch out a little early because I have nothing more to say this week. So
I've cursed about as much as I think I.
I mean,
need
I
to.
could rant
Oh
for an
yeah.
hour on
Yeah.
how shitty the FCC is.
You should see how much hits the cutting room floor.
We have to have like an outtakes, like a blooper reel of you and I.
I can't imagine anyone listen to it, but
Like,
I think
hold on,
we'd
like
laugh.
I guarantee you, if there's like 15 minutes of words that we call Ajit Pai, like the beep, like where
Yeah.
the little beep cut noise, like one after another.
I mean, he. I used to try. I mean, like, give me a little bit of credit. I tried for a long time to not be upset.
I think we played this we played this podcast pretty straight for a long time.
Long time.
And it was just the world's gotten
It just started to get really egregious.
well, no, the world's gotten so crazy that I feel like I feel like that really it's quite possible that we've already had a nuclear war with North Korea, and right now this is our hell. Like we're all just living
We're all actually dead.
in our hell.
Yeah. There's just before we go, legitimately, legitimately in this podcast, Dennis has had to stop at least twice and been like, you shouldn't say that about him to me. Right, like, and so, like,
And
that's the
I
kind of
don't
things-
I don't blush
Dennis does
easy.
not blush easily, and so there's multiple things. Like,
And I was like, "Whoa, Joel,
that is probably
that's out of line."
Like we, both of us have very strong opinions on these topics, and I find the things he's doing objectionable. I'll say.
And if you listen to last episode, you're probably thinking, "What the hell could he have said that he didn't say last episode?"
I made up words. Made up words.
All right, so if you're enjoying the podcast, please let your friends, your family know. That's the best way that podcasts spread is word of mouth.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let everybody know we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you can find a podcast, you could probably find the Grounded Reason podcast. Feel free to send us an email if you have a question or comment.
We love that.
Podcast
That's always fun.
podcast@groundedreason.com. You can follow me on Twitter, handles @Grounded Reason. We have a Facebook page. It's pretty easy to find. I think it's just Facebook.com/Grounded Reason. If not, just search for Grounded Reason. It'll come right up. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So everybody have a good time out there this week. Go leave some comments at the FCC. Just find something.
Just something.
Just go there, find something, and complain.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.